What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be part 2 of the E39 M5 build series. If you guys haven't seen part 1, make sure you guys go and watch that. In part 1, I went ahead and did all the timing guides and timing chain stuff along with valve cover gaskets, and I also went over most of the parts in that video, so make sure you guys go check that video out. But yeah, in today's video I'm going to be starting on the rod bearings and hopefully getting the rod bearings done, and I also might do the clutch as well in this video. That way we get both of those things completely done and out of the way, and finally move on to the fun stuff, which is like suspension, brakes, the ESS tuning supercharger kit that I still haven't shown you guys. So those videos will come in the near future. But yeah, for today I'm gonna get started on these rod bearings. First things first, I gotta hoist up the engine with this little engine hoist on top. That way I can drop the subframe from the bottom and also drop the oil pan and get those rod bearings changed out. It's really not that difficult of a job. It's just very time consuming. So let me go ahead, hoist the engine up, get the car in the air to do the rod bearings. Alright guys, so I went ahead and dropped the subframe with all the suspension components, so I have a lot of room to work with. I also went ahead and took the oil pan off, and I took this last rod cap and bearing and bolts off right here. I moved it to the side, that way you can get to it much easier. I have them sitting right here. So this is the old rod cap with the rod bearing. Rod bearing actually looks really good. There's really no damage to it, but we went ahead and got VAC Motorsports coated bearings, uppers, lowers, with ARP bolts to go with them. We're not going to be reusing these old bolts because you need to change those out either way. Those are stretch bolts. They stretch anytime you tighten them down. So we're going to be using these new ARP bolts with ARP assembly lube for the bolts. And I'm going to be using a red line assembly lube for the rod bearings themselves. So yeah, it looks like the rod bearings on this car were really good. Either way, this is preventative maintenance. We really need to get this done to prevent any future like catastrophic events. Obviously the cars are going to be supercharged, so now that you guys seen that, I'm gonna go ahead and install all the new rod bearings and hopefully get this entire bottom end all put back together. Alright guys, so in those last few clips I got the entire oil pan assembly and the subframe assembly all back onto the car. Rod bearings went on really well. All the suspension is back on. I had to take these struts out, the front two struts out, to make it easier on myself when putting the subframe back on, because it was a little bit tedious. So I took those out because either way I have to get those changed. We got a brand new set of BC Racing coilovers right there, which will probably be in another video. But yeah, the entire bottom is all assembled. Now what I want to go ahead and do is start assembling this cooling system right here, in which we have a brand new CSF radiator. I showed you guys that in the last video. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this brand new all aluminum CSF radiator onto the car, get all the plumbing for the coolant all done, and hopefully get this car started and running for a little bit longer period of time than the last video, because in the last video I got it started but not running for a long time since I didn't have the cooling all hooked up. Instead of doing the clutch, like I said before in this video, I think I'm going to push that video probably to either the next video or the video after that. What I want to do in this video instead is get this cooling system all done and figured out, put it all back together, put those original struts back onto the car, get the car back onto the ground, and then we'll go for a quick test drive. That way we know everything is working perfectly before we move on to the next step, which is the clutch and then the suspension and the supercharger last. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get this cooling system all back together along with the front struts. Alright guys, I got the car down on the ground. Now I'm going to go ahead and take it out for a little test drive just to see if everything works perfectly. Alright guys, let's see how this car drives. It's been running really good actually. Don't judge me because it's a little bit hard to record and drive manual at the same time. So far it's running really good. Obviously I'm not going to be pushing on it like that because of the new rod bearings and the timing guides. You never want to just start ripping on the car after doing jobs like that because it can be catastrophic. You basically need to break in all those parts, and I even suggest doing like an oil change, honestly, anywhere from like 100 to 500 miles after doing rod bearings, just to be safe. That's like my personal opinion. Everyone has their own, but I think it's a good idea to do so because you do get a lot of shavings from the new rod bearings breaking in. So might as well get your oil changed as soon as possible. Obviously not right away, but at least after a few hundred miles. But yeah, other than that, the car is running pretty fine. I did the timing really good, I guess. This was my first time timing an S62. I've timed multiple like other BMW engines before, but this was my first time on this setup. And honestly, it went by pretty easily. Alright guys, that's gonna bring us to the end of this video. Obviously the car is running really well. We still got a few things left to do. Actually not a few, we still got a lot of things to do. So make sure you guys stay tuned for the next videos to come where I'm gonna be installing the suspension, supercharger, and a bunch of little goodies onto this car. So yeah, as always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment down below what you guys think about this build so far, and stay tuned for the next video. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.